You already know this story. A woman named Pandora is given a mysterious box, told never to open it. And of course, she opens it, and all the evils of the world come flooding out. It is one of the most famous tales ever told, a byword for curiosity and catastrophe. Yet almost everything the popular version tells you is either wrong or leaves out the part that actually matters. It was never a box. Hope did not escape the way people think. The real story is not a simple lesson about a nosy woman. It is a dark, deliberate act of revenge by the king of the gods, and it ends on a question that the ancient Greeks left hanging on purpose, one that nobody has been able to answer for nearly 3,000 years. To understand why Pandora was made, you have to know what happened just before. A titan named Prometheus had stolen fire from the gods and given it to humanity, lifting our ancestors out of the cold and dark. Zeus, the king of the gods, was furious. He chained Prometheus to a mountain for it. But that revenge only punished the thief. The fire was still down here in human hands, and Zeus could not take it back. So he devised a second punishment, this time aimed at humanity itself. If he could not hurt us by taking something away, he would hurt us with a gift. And to deliver it, he decided to create something the world had never seen before: the first woman. Up to this point, in Hesiod's telling, the human world was made only of men. So Zeus commanded Hephaestus, the god of the forge, to craft a woman out of earth and water, as beautiful as the immortal goddesses. Then, one by one, the gods came to adorn their creation. Athena dressed her and taught her craft. Aphrodite draped her in grace and longing. The Graces and the seasons hung her with golden necklaces and spring flowers. And Hermes, the trickster messenger, placed something else inside her: a mind of cunning, a persuasive tongue, and above all, a restless, aching curiosity. Because she received a gift from every god, they called her Pandora, a name you can read as all gifts, or the all-giving. She was radiant. She was the most beautiful being mortal eyes had ever seen. And she was, from the very first breath, a weapon. Hesiod, the poet who first set the story down, gives her a chilling label. He calls Pandora a kalon kakon, a beautiful evil, something lovely on the surface and ruinous underneath, built so that no one alive could bring themselves to refuse it. He is blunt about the purpose, too. Zeus made her, in Hesiod's own words, as the price humanity would pay for fire, one gift to cancel another. The flame Prometheus stole had lifted us up, so the gift Zeus sent would pull us back down. And it would do it wearing the loveliest face the world had ever seen. It is worth naming what this story is and where it comes from. This is a very old tale told from a very particular view, one that blamed women for the hardship woven into human life. And the myth was partly Hesiod's way of explaining why existence is so full of toil. That ancient bias is easy to hear now. Set the blame aside, though, and the cold machinery underneath still turns. A punishment disguised as a present, aimed at people who would never think to look for the trap. Zeus sent this dazzling creation down to earth, to the brother of Prometheus, a slower-witted titan named Epimetheus, whose own name means afterthought. Prometheus, the one who saw ahead, had warned his brother never to accept any gift from Zeus. But Epimetheus took one look at Pandora and forgot every word of the warning. He welcomed her and he made her his wife. And Pandora did not arrive empty-handed. She came carrying a large sealed container, a gift that traveled with her, with a single unbreakable instruction attached to it. It was never, under any circumstances, to be opened. Nobody told her what was inside. She was simply asked to keep it, sealed, forever, while carrying within her the exact curiosity that would make that impossible. Now, that container. For most of the last 2,000 years, people have pictured a small, pretty box. And that image is a mistake with a traceable origin. The word the poet Hesiod actually used was pithos. A pithos is not a jewelry box. It is a huge clay storage jar, the kind the Greeks half buried in the ground to hold wine, oil, or grain, sometimes taller than a person. The famous shrinking of that great jar into a dainty box was largely the work of a single Renaissance scholar. In the year 1508, the humanist Erasmus was translating the story into Latin, and he swapped the Greek pithos for the Latin pyxis, which means box. The error was elegant, it was memorable, and it stuck so hard that we still say Pandora's box today. But the original was a jar, and that scale matters. This was not a trinket. It was a vessel built to hold a very great deal. You know what happens next, because the gods built Pandora specifically so that it would. The curiosity Hermes planted in her grew and grew until she could not bear it. What could be so precious or so dangerous that it had to stay sealed forever? One day the pull became too strong, and she lifted the lid. And out of that jar poured everything that had, until that moment, been absent from human life. Every hardship and sickness, toil and pain, envy, grief, old age, and death. In the older world, there had been none of these. People had lived without them. Pandora's jar was where the gods had bottled all of it, and the instant it was open, the whole swarm of miseries scattered out into the air and spread across the earth, where they have stayed ever since. Horrified, she slammed the lid back down, but it was far too late. The world was changed, and it would never be gentle again. In a single stroke, the myth explained the whole texture of human life. Why we fall sick, why we grow old, why work grinds us down, and joy always seems to run out. The Greeks looked around at a world thick with suffering and told themselves it had all come pouring out of one jar, opened by one hand on one terrible afternoon. And then comes the strangest detail in the entire myth, the one the popular version almost always fumbles. When Pandora sealed the jar, one thing had not escaped. One thing was still inside, caught under the rim. Its name was Elpis, hope. Everything else had flown out into the world, but hope alone remained trapped in the jar. And here, Hesiod, the poet who gave us the story, does something remarkable. He simply stops. He tells us hope stayed inside, and he never once explains why, or whether that is a good thing or a terrible one. Then he simply leaves the door open and walks away. And for nearly 3,000 years, we have been standing at that open door, arguing. Because think about what it could mean, and the two readings could not be more opposite. In the kind version, the jar was full of evils, and hope staying with us is a mercy. No matter how much suffering escaped into the world, humanity gets to keep hope close, sealed safe inside, always available to steady us against everything else that got out. But there is a darker reading, and it is just as faithful to the text. If hope was trapped in the jar along with the evils, then hope did not stay with us at all. It was locked away, kept out of human reach, just like the fire Zeus had wanted to deny us. And there is a bleaker version still, whispered by some of the old philosophers. What if hope is not a comfort at all, but the cruelest evil of the lot, the one that keeps us enduring an unbearable life, always waiting for a rescue that never comes? Was hope the one blessing we were allowed to keep, or the final curse, the one that makes all the others survivable enough to suffer through. The Greeks refused to tell us, maybe because they knew that the answer depends entirely on you. That is why you do what you do. Mythling is where the old stories wake up.